Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H virtual event space. You are tuned into Rupture, a creative process of contemporary image making. And for that, I would like to welcome to the program Joseane Daher. Joseane, how are you doing?
Finding you. Thank you, Derek.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
for
coming
the,
on.
the invitation.
No,
I'm
it's
very
great to have you
pleased to be
on.
here. No, me
Look,
too. I'm
we're
very
excited to
pleased.
have you. It's something that we talked when we had talked beforehand a while back when we were planning this program. We talked about your process as an artist, and it's like interwoven into who we are as people, right? So as we change as
Mm.
people, our work is reflective of that. And I'm throwing it out to everybody because I promised Josiane, I'm like, you don't need to talk about gear. We can put the gear aside today. We can talk about the art. So,
Okay.
Josiane, it's a absolute pleasure to have you on once again. And I'm going to turn it over to you, and I will see you in a bit for some Q&A.
Okay. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, everybody. Welcome, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here doing this, collaboration partnership with B&H, which it's a dream store for me. Every time I go to New York, I just love hanging out and there, buying a few things, but being there. So what I'm going to do here today, I'm going to talk about my process as a photographer and also as a visual artist. I'm going to be talking about what I've done before till I get to this work series that I'm been doing for a while now, and how everything is, as Derek said, interwoven. They relate to it sounds like at the beginning that one work has nothing to do with the other, but at the end, I promise you're going to see how I put all together and how this made me feel accomplished. Because during a time, I was searching for this creative insight, or whatever we can call it. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to start sharing my screen, and I'm going to show some images from all these times of my professional work. And I'm going to be talking over it, okay? So it's right here. And I'm going to start the presentation. I'm going to stop sometimes. So what I started this series, I'm going to, before I work as a photojournalist as a stringer in New York, I've lived in New York long time ago, and I worked for AP as a stringer. Then during my stay in New York, I worked for the Museum of Natural History, American Museum of Natural History, I didn't work for them, but I worked during a trip from New York to the Chavante indigenous people in Mato Grosso do Sul in Brazil. It was my first immersion into an indigenous land. So I went there because the American Museum of Natural History wanted to get some art crafts from the Chavante, because the museum had just one piece of them. So I went to photograph their, art craft making process, their rituals, their daily lives, and I'm going to show some of the pictures for you. So this is the Chavante indigenous man carrying a buriti straw. This is another ritual event, sport event for children. This is initiation house for young adults. This is the uncle preparing the child for the sports event. This is during the initiation ritual all through the night, the women carrying stuff. So many things. I have a huge image bank with these images. Then later on, while I was already living in Brazil, I went to the Kaxinawa or Runicuim indigenous land. And I went with an environmentalist called Maria Amália de Souza. And we went there because one of their leaders, Sia Kaxinawa, he won an award from the Reebok Foundation in Washington, D.C. And he got from them a computer. And Maria Amália was going to connect them in a city called Rio Branco in Acre, which is in the Amazon, border with Peru. She was going to connect them to the internet. And I went there to photograph for the group called the Forefront Leaders, also from Washington, D.C., that was going to make their website for their association. So that was our trip. And then I photographed again, I documented their daily lives, rituals, and everything. So this is the Runicuim indigenous people. I just want to talk about this graphism in the girl's face. It's called Kene and has meanings. It symbolizes, depending on the graphism, it symbolizes power, strength, and love, and many other things. And each drawing is different from the other, and they use the patterns also at their tapestry and all the art crafts they make. It's beautiful, very beautiful. So this is the Runicuim. We have here another picture. I just brought few of them because there are too many. Here also it's a ritual that if you see in the background, the women, they have like brooms made of straw that they put fire on it and they start running after the man. And it's pretty fun. And it's a ritual, a feast for the manioc harvesting. And I was running with them. Here you can see, I don't know if you see my arrow here, but right behind him, there's a woman. She's very close to him, and she has this in her hand. And I was running with them to photograph with the movement and, and to get close because I like getting very close to the subjects. And after that, I was like so thirsty. And I drank 2 bottles of boiled, moody water from the Jordan River, where they live near the Jordan River, Rio Jordão. And it took us 9 days to get there by boat. And it was a very, very interesting experience. And all this contact with the indigenous people just changed my perspective of life and everything I've been doing since then. They're just wonderful. And then now it's gonna start the mess. So I was working as a photojournalist for Associated Press. Then I did some documentary work for the museum and was involved with the indigenous communities. And then I came back to Brazil. Right now I'm in Brazil. Curitiba city is southern part of Brazil. At Paraná state, very close to São Paulo state. And when I came back, I started working for a newspaper called Gazeta do Povo. But at the same time, I started doing some technical work for engineering companies. What I was doing? I was photographing cracks and concrete pathologies for reports that the engineers were doing before. Like I had to photograph all the houses, buildings, go inside people's apartments and houses before they start building something like a building, whatever. So I had to photograph everything that was in the surroundings. The engineer would make a report, it's like a precautionary report, and then go back after they built. So in one of these jobs, I went to Piauí, which is in the northeast Brazil, and I had to photograph 64 huts with no basic sanitation nor electricity, because they were going to build a wind farm, and they were going to pass with their huge turbines through the roads where all these huts, were living by the road. So I had to photograph all the problems in these huts, but since the place was wonderful, the light was incredible, it's a very dry land, and people very nice, and their features and the way they live is different from South, right? So all of that just was wonderful to photograph. So while the engineer was doing her drawings, the sketches, I don't know how to call, of the places that I had already photographed, like rooms, bedrooms, bathrooms, whatever, I was photographing the people and other things. So here, some of the pictures. The land is beautiful, dry but beautiful. Here's very interesting. They like eating dry meat, and we call it dry meat, but I never thought about seeing the meat hanging like clothes in a clothing line. And this is dry meat, the meat drying. Here, the cowboy accessories. So you see all the hats and everything he puts in his horse, and he's in the background. The people, I was inside their houses, and this man is so nice. I like getting very close and to photograph. And then I asked, can I photograph you? And he said, of course. I already appear on TV. So he was used to being photographed or filmed. And it's in the middle of nowhere in these places called Queimada Nova and Lagoa do Barro. Right, that is a work done for the engineering companies, but what I show to you is not the work that I've done for them. It's the work I've done for myself, right? Also, I'm an anthropologist, so people, places, the way they live, the way they relate to the places and to their culture, this is very, it nurtures me. And that's why I also was doing that, besides the photography, that it's my whole life. So the body proofs are concrete specimens. Let me show you one here that caught my attention here. that caught my attention. Every time that I went to a construction site, I would see these cylinders made of concrete that were hanging there. And sometimes at the engineering company, they have a lab and they make these tests called like a machine makes a compression in these cylinders, because they take this as a sample. The concrete is a sample that they put inside these metal cylinders, and they bring to the lab, and a machine puts pressure or compression, a compression load on these cylinders until it breaks, right? And the name for me, first of all, I like the words, the name body-proof, corpo de prova in Portuguese, it always reminds me something from the forensic world, you know. So this, it was already something that was interesting for me too. I asked the engineer, can I bring some of this concrete body proofs with me to my studio? And said, take as many as you want. And I took some, and I started photographing, and I like this, you know, the heaviness of the concrete and the lightness of the reflection of it on my tabletop. So I start doing these studies. I consider studies at the beginning with light, reflection, shadows, and there you go. Another, see, it's broken. And the test is called a resistance test. And when it breaks, it's called rupture, rompimento. So I took the word of this test, right? And gave my photographic series the title, Rupture, rompimento. So the cracks, the shape of the stones broken, all these marks, and I just really like it. And here in this, you cannot see much, but I didn't put many here too, but they put marks on it, they write on it. I have many with a lot of writing on it. You know, they make all this mathematical things, the engineers, they love it. And till I start doing my Rupture series. How did it started? Because right now, nothing has, you know, connection. Or everything that I said to you has no connection. I was just working for the journalism, documentary, engineering. So what's what? What happened is that when I was digitizing my photographs, my slides from the Amazon and the POE, the huts were digital already. But before, I come from the film time, Kodachromes and all of that. And I was digitizing my slides. And then I thought, okay, this 35 millimeter slide it's a transparency. And I had at my studio like a old school. I don't know if that's how we can call it, but a very Jurassic overhead projector. I don't know if everybody has ever seen that, whoever is watching here, but that machine used to project transparencies. People used to work with that to, you know, like now the projectors, they project if you giving, you know, if you're in the classroom or meetings. But we used to use this overhead projector. And then I took the small 35 millimeter slide, place it on top of my overhead projector and project on in the wall. And I kind of like it because he has many marks, and you know, it's not very accurate. And I thought, oh, I'm gonna get body proof, the concrete specimen, and I'm going to project on it and see how it looks like. And I start liking the results that I'm going to show you. This first one is made with a better and more accurate projector, right? And I think you see behind me, I have framed the same picture here in my apartment. This is with an accurate projector, and I like these marks and, you know, the cracks, the stones, the broken stone, the broken concrete. But the next one is made with the overhead projector. And the reading is not obvious, right? It's not like you look at and you kind of, I don't know exactly what is that, maybe, right? But I showed the picture before, the woman carrying a heavy pen in her head. So you see here, that picture projected onto the concrete specimen. And also in the background, I use as background the wall. I let the image, you know, spill into the wall, and I make the background from this projections. Now you're going to see other. So I start projecting this. You see the marks that the overhead projector does. Also, the frame of the slide, it's on the wall too. And I kind of start using this to compose my images, you know. And I worked, of course, I have to work in the background because I have to take the, you know, the computer marks and everything. But I don't work, I follow the same logic of experimentation, you know, with the background as the foreground too. So here another picture, the indigenous man carrying the Burichi straw. And it reminds me, and it's not just me who says, but many people says like, oh, it looks like some archaeological thing, you know, like a stone or something. I don't know. And this is with a better, more accurate projector. But what happened when I start doing that? It's when I put all together, this is from Piauí, from the Northeast Brazil. When I put all together the Amazon pictures, the pictures from these small communities in Northeast and other places, it came to me answers. This is me, it's my interpretation, okay? You might see something completely different, and this is what is wonderful about work we do, especially artwork, that when we give, we give the work to the world, and the world interprets as they see, as they want, as through their references, and you know. But my questions, I had many questions, like when I go to people's place to photograph, especially for engineering companies, sometimes I photograph many apartments, houses, and next month or a few months later, I go back there to photograph, or even later to photograph again, because they finished already what they were going to build, and nobody's there anymore. Their properties are all gone, and the people also gone. And I keep thinking, where are the people? They have many stories about their lives there. Some people were old, and all the memories, all everything they built, it's all gone, right? And also the indigenous people always living under threat because of their lands, because of their health. Like here we have one of the groups called the Yanomami. They always, it's been ages, they under threat because of the gold miners and many other problems, right? So all these questions are always popping up in my mind, and I get so anxious with all and trying to find answers and everything. And when I put all together in this work, it was like expressing all that I feel, because I'm talking about, this idea of development and progress, which is an old idea that the old and original places and people must to disappear in order to get progress going on. It's like an old idea, but it's still around, right? And I have nothing against building a beautiful place. Actually, I love when I go to New York, I'm always looking up because I love all the buildings. I love New York. So, but these questions always raising in my mind. And with this work, this whole Rupture series, I think I answer it for myself, right? And here, you can see here the background, the image is going to the wall, and I'm doing whatever I decided when I get the image. So I let myself to create, and I'm already changing. You see some of them at the beginning, I used to project just the image into one concrete specimen. Now, this is one of the latest one. Here is the meat, the dry meat here, hanging on the clothing line. I start using more than one image. So here you see the clothing, here you see a house, then you have the shadow of the concrete specimen also. So this is like I can create many things with that, many. And I use more than one concrete specimen and the same picture, the landscape here. And this it's the latest projections that I've made for a show that I'm going to have on October 6th in Catania, Sicily, in Italy. Last year, I participated there with 2 images only in a group show. And this year, I was invited to have my solo show. And so I'm going to have 25 images. 5 of them, I use artificial intelligence, just, as a try, and also to open up the discussion, because as I come from the film time, right? Analogical time. And then I went to the digital. Now we have the cell phone with cameras, and also the AI is right there, right? And so we cannot deny these things are happening, and at least we have to try. If we don't want to use it in our work, we don't have to, but I wanted to try. So this is my latest projections for the series. And I'm going to show you too how I use the artificial. This is not artificial intelligence. You see 2 body proofs, 2 concrete specimens. I love because you see here the like cars plate on the wall, the door. But what I've done is, I think we're getting there. I took 5 images, and I I use the DALL-E, you know, DALL-E, DALLE, to generate images from my images, from the images that I already projected, that I already work on it, and I use that to see how would come out. So at the Italian show, I will have 5 images. Here I'm going to show you these 5 images. First, I show the ones I photographed, that I shoot and projected. And the second, always the second, with like a tag, a colored tag on the right bottom side. It's generated by DALL-E. So this is my projection. And this I have a co-author. I don't know how to call it. You see the tag underneath. This is my projection. And this is DALL-E with the tag there. I leave it the tag so we can make the difference. This is my projection. This is DALL-E. It's kind of cool, actually. But I realized that at least DALL-E, this is mine. And this is DALL-E. And I realized doing that, this is mine too. DALL-E. But I realized that using DALL-E, this way, because I upload the image, I didn't give prompts to the DALL-E. I just upload my own image, and then it generated many options. But if I realized that using portraits, sometimes DALL-E would give me like weird things. So I use more like, you know, scenery and not really portraits. Here you're gonna see, actually now B&H is not gonna like it. I'm just kidding, okay? The making of, there's nothing, I don't know if you use this word anymore, high tech. I think this is kind of word expression, but there's not much technology here. It's very, very simple the way I make. It's about how you think. So you see that picture here. The body proofs is overexposed here, of course, because of the projector light. I have a good, it's on top of a bed. Before I used to do on a tabletop, right? But I moved to the apartment, and so I improvised something, my computer, the image I'm projecting there, my camera, and that's it. And then I work on it, right? That picture with the indigenous woman with the pot in her head, very simple. And there you go. Here with the overhead projector. Then I made a transparency, a bigger transparency. Instead, because this was in black and white, it was a tri-X film. So then the black and white, I had transparency made of it, but the color is light. No, it was this light. So here I'm making this picture that you see behind me. And that's all about it. Let me stop sharing this screen. And this is the work I've done, right? Hi, Derek.
I'm back.
Yes.
That was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. To me, it was wonderful to talk about my work. For B&H, that, as I said, I love it. It's like a dream place for me. And it was great. I
No,
love it.
it's great to have you talk about that. Now, I know you do a lot of stuff with the education and you have workshops and all that. Did you want to talk a little bit
Right.
about that as well, Joseane?
Yes. Before I've worked for 10 years at Positivo University here in my hometown. I was invited from another institution, actually engineering institution, IDD group. They invited me to create a specialization, a postgrad, I don't know how to say in English, postgraduate course in photography and moving image. So I did it. And then the university invited me to bring my course to there. And I spent 10 years doing that. So I had many people, and I brought students, teachers from all over Brazil. And when the pandemic came, everything ended after 10 years and everybody went online, right? So did I. So I have this platform, which I'm restarting to work on it, called Capici. And I gave last year, I had people from, a curator from Russia, another one from Portugal, and some other good professionals from Brazil. They gave classes there and, workshops. It's not related with the university, it's not linked to the university, it's my own thing. And now I'm going to start again, now that I just returned from New York after spending months in there. I'm going to do it again, these workshops, online workshops. And one that I'm going to give is there at the website that I just saw that you put in there. It's going to be in English also. And it's going to be about creative process, the same name of my lecture here. To show other people's works, how they create these works, and how you use like even vernacular photography, family albums and I don't know, pictures that you find in this old fairs. I don't know how to call now. I forgot the word for that. But you have many in New York. Right? So that's what I'm going to be doing the next, I'm going to start on the September 21st. So whoever is interested, just go at the website, and all the information is there. And anything you can look for me, and I'll be happy to answer any kind of question.
Yeah, if you guys do have any questions, feel free to get them in. I want to tell you that I love having this kind of content on. When you had reached out and I reached out to you, it was like an instant no-brainer. Like, yes, this is the kind of content that we want to put on and that we want to give a voice to, because I feel like everything, especially in the art and photography spectrum, has become diluted, and it almost becomes about it's more like a virtual version of clickbait, where it's how do I just get eyes on this, and how do I get likes, how do I get follows, how do I get commendation for what I'm doing. And I laughed when you're like, B&H isn't gonna like this, and you show your behind the scenes, and I'm like, but you're doing it right, you're creating beautiful work, you're creating meaningful work. And I think that's what the key word is here, is meaningful, purposeful work. That a lot of people are so focused on, what are other people going to like? What is going to get me the most claps? What is going to get me the most people talk? There's such powerful, meaningful art out there. And I think it drives a deeper conversation that ties in. It's so funny that I swear I didn't even know your presentation. I didn't think of it when I wrote the caption, but I just wrote a caption on Instagram yesterday on a post. And it was really about how my photography ties into my life. And I think a lot of people can speak to that. What we're going through as people affects our art. And the
Right.
kind of experiences that we have in our life are going to affect the art we're creating, because there are people who are so deeply tied to themselves through their art that it's one and the same. And that's kind of like the conversation that we had to start this whole presentation. So I think it's so great what you're doing. I will urge people to check out the link. And I
Thank
want to
you.
ask you,
Yeah.
Josiane, what is the most difficult thing for you in getting people to respond to actual art and photography that actually goes deeper? And because I feel like we're so focused on the latest tech and we're so focused on the bells and whistles, and we've kind of lost the meaning.
Oh, I would say to you, I would answer this question that happily we are many people are tied to the all of that you said, but there are many people creating and doing wonderful work, and it's just a matter of start getting to know them, because there are references to, right? They, I mean, when I go to New York, let's say I go to New York, I every week I'm seeing many exhibits, many museums, many galleries. So it's good to see what people are doing, because there are many people doing and doing wonderful stuff, I just arrived here. I went to São Paulo before coming to my hometown. Also went to many galleries, and there was two big shows there, SP Arte, it's like a art fair, and the other one is the biennial, and I went there. And so this is like nurturing me as it does to other people too. That helps you, instead of just checking all the time on what the technology is bringing. I just got the iPhone 14, the 15 is out already, and
Like you can't
and
stay caught up.
no, you can't. So it's better to be looking for this kind of things, because this is like I'm going to use a very, simple word. It's food for you, for your eyes, for your, creation.
It's like putting yourselves in the right company, in the right circles. And I
Right.
feel like we get caught up in things that aren't nurturing us. Like you said, to use like the food, if you eat
Yeah.
snacks all day, you're not going to be full. You're always going to be looking for something to fill the hunger. And it's like people
Right.
aren't putting themselves in the circles around other inspiring artists. If you're hanging around people who aren't creating the kind of work or putting the kind of effort into their work that you aspire to do, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice. And that's been something that it's
Right.
so hard for people. I think also because our social circles are tied into our professional circles now. I think social
Mm.
media has kind of blended the two. And this is something that I don't think as many people talk about, where it's like, okay, well, I follow along with the person who's not an artist, but I went to high school with them, and I get inundated with just, okay, their kids' first day of school, they got a new job, they went to the park, they bought an ice cream cone. And then
Mm.
and then it's like, okay, serious artists who I've never met, but I really respect their work and I love their insight. And the two have blended. And I feel like as we start to whittle down the kind of art, like you said, going to museums, going to exhibitions, and seeing the
Films,
work that
watch
inspires you.
films. Yeah.
Yeah, films,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's the kind of work that
Everything.
inspires.
Yeah. And you don't have to look just for photography. Like when I go to these places, of course, my eyes are caught much, quickly for when I see photography. And I'm always looking for photography. But I'm also looking for other things. I just saw an exhibit in São Paulo from a guy, he died already. He died pretty young, on his 30s, Leo Nielsen. Um, he did wonderful work with fabrics and writing on these fabrics and making all kinds of different things, and that was so inspiring. It was I was thinking about his work. Also, I saw a movie, like a short documentary about him. I was like just thinking about his work for days, and there was no photography in that. And I'm sure that everything that I see and I watch, movies and things like that, that will come out somehow when I'm creating, of course, in my ways and the way I see and interpret all of that. But I'm sure that all of that will come out sometime. I don't know.
No, it's such a great point. I've noticed even sometimes when I go through old hard drives of images and you're so removed from them that sometimes it's good because you're looking at them with a fresh set of eyes. But sometimes I look at these images and I'm like, I'm challenged to see or feel what I felt when I took the image. And if I don't look at it when I'm in the right frame of mind, or sometimes I'm in the right frame of mind and I'm listening to music and music alone. So, there's such like a tie to music for me where I will see things differently if I have a song going through my head. And it's like sometimes you have a
Right.
song you really love and it's a new song and you have it on repeat. And I'm looking through my images as this song plays. And it makes me see something that I didn't even initially see when I saw, or it pulls something else out of my work. And I think it's interesting that you say that in talking about other artistic genres and
Yes.
concentrations,
Yes.
that they can subconsciously feed our own artistic vision.
Yeah, you said, now you explained properly, subconsciously feed. Yes, that's it. That's it. Music. I've seen, now I'm not going to remember, but I've seen work of artists that they mentioned that there was nothing to do with music, as you mentioned the music, but the work was done because of music,
Mhm.
and it wasn't a musical work. So that's the way it goes. Like also Louise Bourgeois, right? She lived in New York, a French, very well known with that spiders. So she did sculpture. She wrote. She did many different. She used many different languages to express herself, and she became so huge doing all of that, right? And she is also a food to nurture me, because I just bumped into a book that she wrote. It's like very psychological also. She has been through psychotherapy for many years, and she put all of that also into her work. So you see how things have relation with the work we put out, right? So I think that we also always have to be, eating. We're not going to get fat with that,
That's
right?
the good
We're
kind of
going to
eating.
get, yeah, I mean, like, I have nothing against, I'm not trying to, say something like that. But as you mentioned before, the snacks are not good for you, you know?
Yeah.
And so you have to look for these things. And then once you there, you always feeling like you want more, you
I
want
was
more.
just gonna say that it's a never and I don't think you should ever feel satisfied. I think we do need to,
No,
because again, going back to the idea of us as people, we're constantly evolving as people. And your art should be evolving with you. It should be a hand in hand process that you're going through as you change as a person. You
right,
see things that change you. You experience life. Life, just the experience of life alone changes you as a person. It changes
right,
the kind of art that you respond to. It changes the kind of stories that you want to tell, and that your tastes change. How many kids hate? I hated olives my whole life. I still don't love them, but every once in a while I come across an olive, and you have Caribbean cuisine where you have an olive thrown in with the
yeah,
rice and beans, and it's like that saltiness of the olive is a change up, and it's like, okay, it balances out the meal, and it's something that I never would have liked as a youth. But
mm,
now my tastes have changed as an adult, and I think our
right.
art kind of takes that same path, but we have to be open, we have to be receptive to the
Right.
change.
Yeah, and I like this words like disruption and rupture, because both of them, you know, it's like has the negative sides, but both of them like it's more like the disruption. You change the flow of things. They were the way they were, and then you start something different. And the rupture, it's like you break something you're doing and you start something. It's like a rebirth. So it has to do with what you're saying, and that's how I see my work, you know. And life is like that.
Yeah.
I like these two words.
No, I like that. And it's about obviously changing the perspective of it, where, like you said, there's something that has a negative connotation. And it's looking at it, even that, looking at it in a new way and seeing it as a benefit rather than a hindrance or something that is negative, and taking that and saying, no, we're breaking the status quo.
Right,
How do you get recognized? You go against the grain. If you fall in line and you're not a new voice or a new vision, nobody recognizes it. And going back to what
right,
we talked about, where there's so much great work out there. There's so many great artists. There's so many people doing great things. Unfortunately, we live in a day and age where, yes, it's the easiest time in human history to have your work seen by anyone in the world, but it's also the most saturated because everybody is now introducing stuff out of there into the ether.
right.
So,
Yes, yes. And then some of the stuff has the same pattern, right? It has kind of, you know, the same looking. I don't know. Um, I think we that's the way I do. I'm always nurturing myself with other people's work, and when I try some, I'm always experimenting. I'm already feeling like this Rupture series that I've shown in Washington DC at the Art Museum of the Americas last May also, until July, and now it's going to be in Italy. I can keep doing that forever because my archives are huge and I love doing, but I'm already feeling like, oh, I want to create something. I have these feelings like, you know, starting my stomach, and then something's gonna happen. I don't know what, but something's gonna happen.
but now you
But
have me over here
because
like
I,
that.
yeah,
Now I'm like, I got to create something more meaningful.
yeah,
It's good, but these are
eh,
the conversations that fuel us. They fuel that hunger, and you have to have that hunger, or else you're never going to push yourself out of your comfort zone.
and as much as you see other people's work and everything that's happening, you feel, you know, like I want to do more. I want to do and express more and create more. And
So,
it will
so
happen because,
no, what's in your immediate future? Is there anything that you're working on that you can tell us about, or anything that you have your sights set on?
yes, I'm going to restart my platform, Capici. Also, I'm designing, I don't know if I'm using the right word, like an exchange program for visual artists, photographers, and, you know, I would like to bring people from abroad to Brazil. So I'm already checking. Oh, great.
put put me on the list.
Oh, I will. I will, you know, I want to bring people from abroad to see some small communities and have experience, because this is nurturing people, inspiring people, you know, a different scenery, different way of life, because that's what I've been through. It's the same logical thought that I had when I create my courses, because I was an assistant in New York for many different photographers, jewelry, and food and special effects and all of that. And so when I start drawing the course, I start thinking, oh, this is important, this is important. And they didn't need to look for that, you know, it was given. I mean, they were paying, of course, but it was given to them. My experience, my life experience were there. now I'm going to do something I like. I've been to many places, and I want to have a program when people are going to do more or less, of course, what I've already done, you know,
Love
and
that.
that's one of my projects.
I love that. And I think that's so
Yeah,
great because just the world needs more of that. We need people to see things from another perspective, and we need to
right,
experience other cultures and what other people live, even in just their day-to-day lives. I think it cultures all of us, and that does everybody well when we're able to expand our own understanding of others.
right, right. And not just go as tourists
Yes.
to
Oh,
places. Being a
yeah.
tourist is wonderful too. I love when I go to New York, I'm a kind of tourist, and my son lives in there. So there are many ways that I enjoy the city, but I'm also a tourist. But being there for long, it's different, even though nowadays things are not that far away from, but as a big city, and I don't live in a big city, I've lived before, it's a great experience. Every time I go and spend months in there, every time is a different experience, right? But when you go to these places that you're not used to, you've never been to, and different ways of living, that it's a huge experience that really changes um, your mind and perspective, as you said.
Definitely. Well, Josiane, I want to thank you again. This was a great conversation.
I love it. Thank you very much, Derek.
No, it's our pleasure to have you on. We'll have to have you back. I want to definitely,
Oh,
stay in
great.
touch, and we'll have to bring you
Yes, we
back on
will.
and see what else you have in the works and see how everything's going down in the Southern Hemisphere
Okay,
with the educational stuff. So congratulations
great.
on getting the site relaunched, and thank you again for coming back on. A huge thank you to all of our viewers who tuned in today, and maybe one day we'll get you back to do a webinar in Portuguese. I won't be able to understand it.
Oh,
I
great.
won't be able to host it, but well, I know we do. B&H has a huge contingent in Brazil. So
Yes, when I go to B&H store in New York, I start speaking in Portuguese, I mean in English, and I think they realize my accent is Brazilian, and they start speaking Portuguese to me. This time that I went there, the guy was speaking in Portuguese, and I was answering in English. And then I said, "Wow, you speak in Portuguese, and I'm speaking English." Yes, because some of them have they came here many times already. This guy, I don't remember his name, but he said he came and he mentioned the place he came and many places here in Brazil. Yes, everybody knows B&H here in Brazil.
yes,
Everybody buys from B&H.
yes. I've heard it. I've heard it from the people that work in the store. They said we have a huge number of
Yes.
Brazilian customers that come in. So
Yeah,
look,
yeah,
nothing's out of the realm here with the event space. We'll have to work on that, and we'll stay in touch with you, Josiane. It's a pleasure to have you on as well. Again, everyone, thank you for tuning in once again. This has been another round of the B&H virtual event space in the books. We'll catch you all next time.
Thank you, everybody, too. Thank you, Derek.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Josiane.
B&H. Bye-bye. Thank you.